I'm in that moment in my career where I feel like I'm finally in my groove, where I'm more comfortable with being uncomfortable. There is no limit. The possibilities in being a Black female and sitting in the role that I'm sitting in now, and knowing that there's still more out there for Black women that look like me and other women of color that look like me. Let's upsize. Hey sis, come on in. Let's have a quick chat. Hi everybody, my name is Danielle Estrada. I am a wife, I'm a mom, I am a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend. I work for Microsoft. I've been there for about 7 years. I am the general manager in retail and consumer goods of strategic accounts. I am super passionate about developing our future talent. I am also a professor at Georgetown University. I am a crazy cheer mom for my daughter's cheer team. I am also a mom of a 20-year-old son who is a junior in college, and he is also working on a career in technology. I've been married to my wonderful husband of 30 years. We have 2 dogs, and I also have 2 amazing parents that are in the DMV area. So I was born in Baltimore, so I came out the chute in Baltimore. My dad grew up in not so good neighborhood. He grew up in the streets in Baltimore, and he wanted a better life for his family. He went into the military. And after I was born, in my elementary years, we ended up in San Antonio. And I did my elementary and part of my high school years there. And then my dad retired and he got into consulting. And he ended up moving the family to Dallas when I was going into my junior year. So that's how I got to Dallas, where I met my husband and started, my adult life there. So I love telling this story. So when we moved to Dallas, I'm gonna say as a teenager, I was somewhat depressed. When we were in San Antonio, I was super popular. I was on our ROTC drill team. I was gonna get my Letterman's jacket. I mean, I was living my best life. And then when my dad said we were moving, I was like, you're kidding. I was like, can I stay here? Do I have to go? And of course it wasn't an option. And when we came to Dallas, I felt like I just got dumped into just like the land of knowing nobody and not having anyone. And I needed to it was like starting all over as a teenager. It was just so hard. And so where I was at in my school, I was pretty much done with all of my required credits for school. So I would go to school in the morning and I worked in the evenings, in the afternoons. And I worked at a local McDonald's right down the street. So I'll never forget, I left school and I walked in the door right by the drive-through and I saw my husband and time stopped. Like time stopped. And when I saw him at that moment, I knew I was gonna spend the rest of my life with him. Now, did that happen like right away? No. We were an interracial couple. My husband is from the Philippines. I wasn't sure, his feelings on the interracial dating. He wasn't. He's completely opposite of me. He is the yin to my yang because I'm super outgoing. He's super quiet and shy. And so making that approach to each other was so hard. And so for the first year, we did the, whole young people like being mean to each other and stuff. And he was like a manager there. So he would make me like clean the bathrooms and clean the lobby. Like he would give me like the really crappy jobs. And I would just we would just fight, right? And it was looking back on it, it's cute. But at the time I was just like, oh, I don't like him. And then so one day I was working in the drive-thru And I'm standing in the back and I'm taking orders. And one of the other managers drives up with her car. She's leaving. And she gives me a dozen roses with a card. And I'm like, what the heck? I was like, what is this? She's like, read the card. So I open up the card and it says, I'm in love with you, Milo. And he's standing right behind me. He's standing right behind me. And that was it. 6 weeks later, he asked me if I would marry him. I was 16. I was probably headed to 17 at that point in time. And he asked me to marry him. And I knew, God spoke to my heart. I knew that was going to be the man I spent the rest of my life with. Now, I couldn't tell my parents, right? I couldn't tell my parents, right? And I have to tell you how he proposed. You have to hear about the proposal. So the proposal, our favorite restaurant was Chili's. And so that was the first place we went on. That was where we went on our first date. And so he took me out to dinner and we were at Chili's. And it was just like our normal thing where we would go out on a date. And he was acting funny. Like he was just fidgety. And I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, why are you acting like that? And he kept like getting up and he's like, I got to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, okay. And so we're sitting there and we're just talking. And then we had ordered like nachos. And so all of a sudden, the waitress comes by and she puts this basket of mozzarella sticks down. And I immediately turned to her and I was like, we didn't order this. And she's like, oh, and I looked down and there's a ring on my mozzarella stick. There's a ring on my mozzarella stick. And he asked me if I would marry him. Like the whole staff is literally standing like behind us in the entry of the kitchen, like watching him make this proposal to me with my ring on a cheese stick. It was the cutest, sweetest thing. But at that moment, I was like, I was crying and all that. And we were the first couple to get engaged in their restaurant. So I've been with him ever since then. So we have been married for 30 years. We just celebrated 30 years this August. So we were, in essence, kids, starting our life, figuring things out, building our future. We've always been in sync and had the synergies about the sanctity of marriage, children, family, and having a partner that supports you in everything that it is that you do. I don't know how I would have done it without him. I have my ups, I have my downs, and no matter where I'm at, even if, we're arguing, we're fussing, he's always there when I need him, and I'm there for him. We are one, and truly understanding what that means is everything about like why when I saw him, when time stopped, when I knew right at that moment that was my life partner. And I couldn't do life. I couldn't do work. I couldn't do the kids. I couldn't do caring for my parents. I couldn't do all the things that I do if it wasn't for having the strength of a partner. And not that we are similar, because we're not. We're so opposite. But I think that's the key, is that we balance each other. We bring balance to each other on both sides. I feel like I need more of that balance and he brings more of it to me, but we're both equally yoked. When I first got married, everyone always said, well, if you make it past 7 years, you're good. We know that's not true. And the blessing for me and him was not to say that we were always in the groove from the beginning, because we both were still growing and we were still maturing, but we've always felt just that connection. So it wasn't the need to it wasn't getting into the groove. It was just learning to grow and change together, and the acceptance of change is okay, right? I'm not the same person I was 30 years ago that he married, but I think so many people expect that. Like, you're not the person that I married. Well, of course not. You learn, you grow, you develop, and that's what we both have done. Now, we get on each other's nerves, and sometimes we need a moment, but I think that, and this is one of the things about me, is I hold a grudge. When I get upset, I'm upset for a long time. Like, I can hold it. Him, he's mad for 5 minutes and then he's back over, kissing and rubbing on me, and I'm just like, get away from me, right? And I'm still, so that's one of the things that I've learned and I had to grow through is, give grace, right? And I pray often for God to soften my heart, right? Is to let those grudges go and know that people make mistakes. And when they make those mistakes, forgive and let it go. And don't keep holding on to the past and what's happened in the past. So that's helped me personally, professionally, and even in my marriage and keeping my marriage solid and strong. So our groove has always been there. I think our groove has just changed over the years. When I was early in my career and I worked for a chiropractor and an executive that worked for a tech firm, he walked in and he started dialoguing with me on a regular basis every week when he would come in for an adjustment. And that's how we started talking. And he was the one that got in my ear. His name was Michael. And he was like, Danielle, what are you doing? He's like, why are you here? There's so much more in you. And he took me under wing and he hired me. He gave me a job. I was his assistant. And I worked as his assistant, but a few times a week, we would go in his office for 2 or 3 hours on a whiteboard, and he would just walk me through different technology concepts. And I was finishing my degree at the same time, and I would learn from him, just spend hours and hours and hours learning from him. And then from there, he didn't hold me back and say he wanted me to stay his assistant. He wanted me to move on. And so then the second person that took me under wing was someone that he knew. And he was actually a vendor. His name is Ardith Smith. He is one of my long-term friends and mentors. 25 years I've known him. And he was another one that took me under wing. And to this day, we haven't worked together in forever. But if I need him, I can call him. And what he would do with me is we would go to meetings and he's like, Danielle, I want you to listen and I want you to observe and then we'll talk. And so every time we would go to a meeting, he would bring me in, he would introduce me. You talk about diversity and inclusion. He always made me feel included. I was very junior and I was learning the project management space at that time. But he would always bring me in. He would always introduce me. I would take notes feverishly. And then after we finished that meeting, we would sit down together and we would debrief. And he would ask me, he's like, tell me what you heard. What did you learn? What questions do you have? He would give me advice. And he was not a soft, squishy, touchy-feely person at all. He was very direct. And I needed that. I loved that. He was very direct. We stayed on task. We stayed on plan. And I'm telling you, like, those two individuals set the stage for my path of growth. And so from there, I just continued to soar. And I took step after step after step. And those two stayed in my life. Anytime I go back to Dallas, him and his amazing wife, Michelle, we'll get together, we'll have dinner. He checks in on me. We follow each other on social media. So having those long-term relationships and those mentors as, not necessarily somebody that's inside your company, those are important, but I think that having a variety of mentors and people that you can reach out to, people that you can lean on, are just so important to helping you grow throughout your career. So how I build relationships is, number one, not putting so much structure and rigor behind those relationships. Relationships come and go, right? And it's also understanding that they may be there for a time and being okay with that. Oftentimes, I'll have people reach out to me and ask me to mentor them. And I always tell them, look, we're getting to know each other. And if this relationship works for you, great. Let's keep talking. If it's once a month, if it's once a quarter, if it's a couple of times a year, whatever feels right and whatever works for you, I'm okay with that, right? So I think setting the expectations and also removing some of those barriers that folks always try to put so much structure and rigor around a relationship, and also giving time, right? Is a relationship isn't something that has to happen instantly and overnight, right? And that's the thing I think that's helped me. And there's tons of people that I've come in contact with, and we don't talk that often, or every once in a while we'll reach out. Sometimes what I'll do, I just sent a ping to a couple of people yesterday and I just said, I just want to say hi. I'm thinking about you. That's it. Nothing else, right? The occasional text, the occasional check-in, right? Setting up, time for coffee. Also, I think that it's not always coming to someone and expecting something from them. Can you help me get this job? Can you, go, always looking for something in return. Sometimes it's just, one of my dear, dear friends, her name is Divya Gupta. And she called me the other day, yesterday, because it was my birthday. She called me and I answered the phone and she just started singing happy birthday to me. She just wanted to sing happy birthday to me. She's like, Danielle, that's it. That's it. Have a great day. Bye. So my point in sharing that is when you're establishing relationships, it should be a two-way thing and not just for your own personal benefit, but also realizing that that person may also need something from you too. And so I think that that's kind of helped me go a long way, is that I'm not always coming to people asking them for something. That goes to my customers, that goes to my peers, my teammates, others, is that when Danielle's coming to you, she's not always expecting something in return. And Danielle's always, always willing to be there for you if you need her. I took a long time to make a decision to move on, or to look at the what's next for Danielle in my career. And I held myself back because I had built such a relationship with my team. And we spend sometimes more time with the people at work than we do with people at home. They become your family. But I had some mentors in my ear and said, Danielle, what are you doing? What are you doing? At the end of the day, what are you achieving by holding yourself back when there's more out there for you and there's more out there that you could be doing? And so when I made that transition, I waited till I needed to make sure it was sure, like it was final, official, and then sharing the news with them that I'd made the decision to move on. And every single one of them celebrated me. They were so happy for me. They showed me 100% love and support. And we have a little Teams chat that I have pinned that I just refuse to unpin. And I wish them all happy holidays and still check in on them. It was hard emotionally to say goodbye to them and to go refocus on a new team, but I have a amazing new team and more responsibility, and just very excited about what I'm about to do at Microsoft. So I'm a part of a group called RCG, which is Retail and Consumer Goods, and I am the GM of Strategic Accounts. So I am the sales leader for our largest strategic retail and consumer goods customers. So I have full accountability for those accounts, the relationships, everything that it is that we deliver, our entire product suite. So it's been a dream of mine, number one, to be working in the retail space. That industry is somewhere where I've always wanted to be, as, being able to look at being a customer on, the customer side, but then also being on the other side where you're giving your customers capabilities and technologies to help them, take care of people like me, which being the customer or the end user. So it's been one of my dreams to be in this industry. Anytime a customer goes into a retail establishment and they're gonna make a purchase, or they're trying to make a decision about any type of purchase, there is some tool or some technology behind making that possible. To how do we get the inventory that's in the store? How do we process your transaction when you want to purchase an item? How do we find out what your interests are? Every single one of those components, there's technology sitting behind it. The brick and mortar store that they go to, the online website that they're searching and they're looking for that item that it is that they want to purchase. Every single one of those items, technology stands behind it. So for our company, right, is providing the technology, the infrastructure that will help make those things possible. Where am I going next? You know, I have always said I want to go nowhere but up. That's always been for as long as I can remember. I always said I wanted to climb the corporate ladder and I didn't want to put a cap on it. But where I'm at right now, I'm in listen and learn mode. And so I've taken on a lot more responsibility and I was more than ready and prepared for it. I have a crew and an army standing behind me, ready to support me. But what I'm looking forward to is spending some time in this space, spending some time in this industry, having fun as I build up my team, as they get to know me as I'm successful, which I plan to be in this new role. So I'm looking forward to taking some time and being here for a minute. But at the end of the day, my career journey at Microsoft has been nothing short of amazing. So the team of folks that work with me at Microsoft that are on my team are account executives and what we call account technology strategists. So we have the I say we, the folks that are on my team are the people that own the relationship with the customer. So anytime you think about working with a big enterprise organization and you're looking at the different technology giants, someone has to be that accountable person. Who's that team that ultimately owns the relationship with the customer? That's what my team is responsible for. So our account executives, they own the relationships. They work with our customers to, put agreements in place when they want to purchase any type of cloud technology to help enable those retail solutions for them. Then we also have strategists that also help our customers look at what is their long-term strategy, where are they going with their digital transformation, and they help them think about and realize what that digital transformation is. So those are the two types of resources that report to me directly, but then there's an army of hundreds of thousands of resources that do different pieces, from developers to consultants to specialists that know different solution areas. So it's an endless amount of other people that are behind the scenes that are also providing support that are more matrixed into us. The type of leader that I am is allowing people that work for me to act as if they are running their own business. They're their own CEO. And if you're the CEO of a company, you're pretty independent. You can make your own decisions, you give direction, and I want people that work for me to feel that way because I want to feel that way. So that's the type of style that I operate with. I'm there for my folks when they need them. I want to know what's going on. I want to stay informed, but I want people to feel that sense of autonomy and that they can go and run their business. And I feel like when I treat people that way, they tend to soar. Now, there's always people that need more direction and more guidance, and you know that, and you figure that out, and you customize, how you lead based on the needs of your the people that are on your team as a people leader. But that's what I would ultimately love people to achieve and to operate at that level. So if they're not at that level, then I work to get them there. So the future of my family footprint and my desire to upsize, right? It's so fitting, right? People ask me, Danielle, why would you want to move into a bigger home at this point in your life, right? My son is 20, my daughter's 15. They're exiting the home, and I'm looking to upsize. And for me, I think about family, and I think about the future, and family is so important to me. I know that I'm gonna have grandkids. I also wanna create a space so that if my kids decide, post-college that they wanna come back home, that there always be a space for them here. I also have aging parents. And I want to make sure that there's a way for me to care for them should I need to be able to do that. When I talk about upsizing from a family perspective, it's so fitting when I think about my career and I think about work because I'm upsizing, right? I'm in that moment in my career where I feel like I'm finally in my groove where I'm more comfortable with being uncomfortable and I can continue to upsize in my career, and there is no limit. There is no limit for where I could go, and realizing that the possibilities in being a Black female in the technology industry and sitting in the role that I'm sitting in now, and knowing that there's still more out there for Danielle, there's still more out there for Black women that look like me and other women of color that look like me. Let's upsize.
Love that.
I put myself through college. I started off in community college and I was going part-time, working, again, got married when I was 18. I had to figure out life on my own. And there were two individuals that saw me and they said, Danielle, what are you doing? What are you doing? You have so much potential. You have so much capability. You need to finish school. You've got to get through school because we need you. And that clicked for me. I've always been put into leadership roles. I've always been noticed and my potential's been noticed, but I also didn't have the confidence and realized my own potential. I'm not gonna say till recently, but it was a journey to get to that point when I realized what was inside here and that it was okay to let it out. I struggled as I grew throughout my career and I was taking these steps in the technology space and figuring out where I could go and how do I get to the top and did I deserve a spot at the top? And I kept holding myself back and kept thinking I didn't belong or I had to wait behind someone else or I had to ask for permission or I needed to be invited. And when I talk about upscaling, I just say no. You have to be bold and you have to be courageous and you have to not be afraid to say what it is that you want. And so in the role that I am now, I'll never forget my boss asked me, he said, Danielle, what do you want to do next? What do you want to do? And I told him specifically, I want to run. I told him I want to run the account team unit in either the retail space or the healthcare space. I had never in my career been that specific. I was specific on what it was that I wanted to do. He said, okay, let's go. Let's go. And he stood behind me. I spoke to other leaders and I made it known what it was that I wanted to do and what my desires were. Some people were like, oh, that's a really hard job. Are you sure? And I'm like, every job is hard, right? So there were people that kept warning me and warning me and warning me. Now I'm in the role and I got it, right? And so pressure is on. And so sometimes I find myself sinking back to that place, right? And I'm like, no, you can't sink back, Danielle, to that place of self-doubt because you wouldn't be in this position if you weren't qualified. You wouldn't be here if you shouldn't be here. So the only option for me is to crush it and continue to upsize. And when I talk about upsizing to me in my career means I continue to take those big, bold steps forward. So what keeps me in the right mentality, right, or of where I want to be, of focusing on me and my career and that positivity and not taking those steps back, is self-care is I'm going to say it's critically important. And there's certain things that I do to feed my own inner self. One of those things is getting in the gym. And coming through the pandemic, I really, really saw the value in how that helps me emotionally. I get up in the beginning of it. I get up in the morning. I love now, before I used to work out in the evening, morning workouts are the best because I feel like I get up, I start my day, I get energized, and then I just feel like I'm so ready to go. And people will tell me on calls all the time, you're so like, you got all this energy, and they're just waking up. And I'm like, yes, because, I have started my day focusing in on me and getting myself ready to go and take on whatever challenges are going to be faced in front of me. Getting my nails done, getting my lashes done. All of those things are just the self-care. Those are those moments that are just preserved for Danielle. I take care of everybody from my team to my household to my parents to my friends. And so those moments of self-care are just silent times where I don't focus on anybody but me. So that's one of the things that I use to keep me in that mental space of staying positive for Danielle. So I have a 15-year-old daughter. Her name is Maya. And Maya is my heart and soul. Maya is my mini me. Maya represents me in ways that she will never know. She is a ball of fire, energy, spice, love. And I want her to know how much I look up to her, how much I love her, how proud I am of her. And I look forward to seeing her soar and reach all of her goals. Everything that she wants to achieve, I look forward to seeing her achieve those. And I always want her to know that no matter what happens in her life, that she has me standing behind her to support her, to lift her up, and make sure that anything that she needs, I'm there for her. So, what it's like being a mom working for a company, a big technology company. If anyone sees me around work, whether it's on camera or anywhere else, I always sport my Microsoft swag. And one of the things that you'll see me wearing is a hoodie that says Microsoft Mom. And people ask me all the time, what does that mean? And it's representation of the connection I have with my daughter. When I started at Microsoft, she kept hearing me talk about how excited I was, and I kept talking about Microsoft, 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 and the brand and how great it was. And she's like, Mom, you're the Microsoft mom. And I was like, yes, I'm the Microsoft mom. So I started wearing hoodies that say Microsoft Mom. I wanted her to see me, wanted her to watch me grow in my career as I have, and be an example for her to see the possibilities that await her if she wants to go into technology, if she wants to do something else. But being a mother in a technology company just opens so many doors and ways for us to show the art of the possible to our future. My daughter is our future. She represents our future. And so I feel like I'm able to represent that for her. Ooh, advice for other moms is, the advice that I have for other moms is, don't hold yourself back. Be bold, be courageous. The possibilities are endless. If a door closes, keep knocking. Keep knocking. Push the door open because it will open. Don't be afraid to ask for help, but also be willing to put in the work. Be willing to put in the work. Be willing to fight. Be willing to grind. And the last thing that I'll say is be your authentic self. Don't change you for anything or anyone. When I hear the word target, or when I hear the word quota, ooh, wait a minute. Ooh. The thing that comes to my mind is making the impossible possible. Making the impossible possible.
push you on that one. Sorry. That's a very, like,
Woo! And I said that what comes to my mind is making the impossible possible when it comes to sales targets. At the beginning of the year, you feel so much pressure and you feel that stress when you get that number. And you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to make it? How am I going to make it? Because quite frankly, those numbers, they continue to rise. The expectations continue to grow all the time. And you're just like, how am I going to make it? And so seeing myself be in a situation where I took our business and doubled it, right? The success of doubling the business, feeling that I made the impossible possible. Then everybody wants to know, how did you do that? How did you do that? Relationships, building trust, authenticity, leading with my best work. That's how I did it. I make it my mission to put relationships and put trust first. My customers trust me. I go in with not trying to sell them something, not trying to put something in front of them that they don't want or they don't need, right? I lead with empathy and understanding them, understanding what is your business about? What is it that you're trying to achieve and how I can help you? And sometimes helping them is not helping them. Sometimes it's taking a step back and waiting. Now, will all of my leadership agree with that? No. No. But when I'm able to yield those results in different ways, leadership's okay with it. Now, does that always work in every case and situation? No, it doesn't. There's the art and the science of being in a sales role. It's not black and white. There's no way that anyone can operate and think that it's black and white and it's methodical, that you can do things this way. Yes, you can understand the buying cycle. Yes, you can understand budgets. You want to understand their strategy. But you also have to look at the changes in the market, what's happening in the market, what's happening with our customers, what's happening with their leadership, what's happening with them in their own skilling and where they're at with their careers. There's so many just factors that are coming into play that can influence customers' buying decisions and your ability to land those numbers with them. So I also like to remain flexible, and I'm constantly looking for the backups, right? I need those backups. I can't just focus in on that number. I need coverage. And that's how I ended up doubling my number, that in my previous role, and doubling the business, is because people that work for me, Danielle always has plan A, plan B, plan C. There's never just plan A. We always have the backup for the backup for the backup. So that's how I have been able to make the impossible possible. The advice that I would give to a CIS member that may be thinking about a career in sales, or thinking about, is that the role for them? What are the possibilities for somebody in a sales career? How does that apply to their life beyond work? The first thought that I have is, number one, I don't believe that you have to know how to sell. I'll tell CIS members that throughout the majority of my career, I avoided being in a sales role. I did not want to be in a sales role. When I thought about sales, I thought about the term used car salesman. The feelings and the words that come to mind when I thought about sales were fake, overpriced. They weren't very positive terms. And so in my journey at Microsoft, somebody grabbed me by the coat and said, Danielle, you need to get into a sales role. And I was like, no. That's not the role for me. And I was like, I don't want to be that person. And they were like, Danielle, you don't realize it. You're a seller. You are absolutely a seller. And so that got to me. That got me thinking. And I was like, I am? And then I moved into a sales role, but I didn't want to be introduced as a seller. I was like, do not introduce me as a salesperson. I felt that was negative too, because I felt customers were gonna not want to talk to me because they just assumed that I was there to sell them something. And what I wanted to do was I wanted them to trust me and I wanted them to get to know me. And so when I moved into a sales role and how I even explained and landed, because I had the interview team ask me, well, Danielle, we haven't seen where you were just a complete quota carrying person. And throughout my career, I had sales quotas, but that wasn't all I had, right? I had delivery and sales mixed in throughout my consulting career. And so now I was going to be moving into 100% quota carrying. And they were like, well, how are you going to do this? I said, I'm going to go in by building relationships. I'm going to be my authentic self. I'm going to understand my customers' needs, pain points, wants. And through establishing those relationships and building that trust, I believe that I will be able to be extremely successful as a seller. They took a chance on me. And I'll never forget sitting down with one of my customers. And she said to me, she said, Danielle, I know you're in sales. And she said, I love talking to you because you don't come in here and try to sell stuff to me. She said, your brand speaks for itself. We're going to buy something from you. But so many other people in your company or other companies that we've dealt with, they come in with these presentations and they want to tell me about this shiny new thing. But I'm a human being. And my customers, I know about their kids, their grandkids. I know what they like to do for fun, right? I don't come in and just sit down with a formal presentation. I want them to know who I am, the human side of me, because it's about a relationship. Just like we spend so much time with our coworkers, we spend a lot of time with our customers. So we need to establish a relationship with them as well, in addition to helping them understand how that there is a solution that we have that can help them. It doesn't need to be about a specific product, but they helping our customers understand that they're sitting in front of people that can bring not just a product, but solutions. So I bring solutions to help solve problems, and I help think through how can I help you solve that problem. So then if I pivot to how does that translate into my personal life, right? It's the exact same thing. I'm working with my kids to help them solve problems. I bring solutions to help them solve problems. So when I think about my skills as a seller, when I think about what it helps me do as a mother, as a wife, as a person in this society, is I have my mind on how can I help others solve problems. And that I feel like I've gotten that skill set to where I see the pattern of how I'm going to be able to solve that problem. The first thing I got to do is I got to listen and I got to learn. I can't just jump feet first into something. I got to understand the landscape. I got to understand what it is that I'm dealing with, understand the situation. And oftentimes I see others that they, get a tidbit of information and they know all the answers. I'll be the first one to tell you, you know what? I need to get back to you on that. Let me do some research. Let me go find out a little bit more and then I'll come back to you. But there's so many people that feel like they have to have the answer right then, right there, and they have to know everything. I don't know everything, but there's other people that know a lot. I can bring other resources that can help you solve this problem. And so those techniques for me have truly helped me to, number one, shine as a leader, but also establish trust that people are looking for rather than feeling like they have somebody that's just coming to sell them something. I would affirm to CIS members that you can be successful and be your true authentic self. That's my affirmation to CIS members and it took me time. And that's the other piece of advice that I would say is give yourself time and grace. Life is a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. I wasn't there overnight. I used to be stoic. I used to be so guarded, right? I wouldn't let people in. It took me time to get comfortable, number one, being in my own skin. Number two, being in society that isn't always accepting, right? The angry black woman syndrome. That's one of my new projects that I hope to work on and take a step at a time for us to dispel that syndrome. So often you can see someone else walk into a room and say something a certain way, but if we black women say things a certain way, you're angry, like you get feedback, you're not showing up the right way. I challenge those folks that make those opinions and make those statements. I challenge those folks to say, why are they considered angry? Why is it that if I fold my arms like this, I'm considered angry? Why is it that if I look at you with a blank stare, which could mean concentration, that means anger? Why does my face and the shape of my face automatically assume anger? Can we dispel the assumption of anger that is associated with black women, especially black women of power, black women, period? That is something that is just haunted so many of us. And I feel like that's what holds a lot of us back. So for me and where I am is I'm not letting that hold me back. I'm not letting that hold me back. When I get the feedback, I continue to be self-aware. And I also tend to communicate more. I want people to get to know me, and I ask them, please take an opportunity to get to know me. I warn them. I'm super high energy. I'm high strung. My voice raises when I get excited. I'm not mad. I'm not yelling. I'm passionate. I'm passionate. So I hope that as maybe as a part of sis, that's something that we can do to help each other, right? Is you can't solve world hunger overnight, but hopefully we can start making changes in the perceptions that people have of what anger is versus passion. So I attended my first CIS conference this year, and it was an amazing, amazing experience. I had the best time. And the thing that I loved about the first CIS conference that I attended was the relationships, the connections, the atmosphere. The venue was absolutely beautiful. When I walked in and I saw the setup, I was like, wow. Wow, wow. From the stages to the common areas where we got to get together to just take a break, it just screamed sisterhood. It screamed sisterhood to me. And so I highly, highly, highly encourage any of our young, mid-career, senior and career individuals. The thing that I love is that CIS is for everybody. It's not for a certain person where you're at in your career, for anyone at any stage of their career. CIS is for you. So I highly encourage you to come and participate and join the sisterhood. Ooh, why the fresh kicks? So there's a story behind my transition to the kicks, and it came as a result of having to have surgery on my Achilles. So I have these giant bone spurs on both of my feet, and I finally had to get them fixed. And my days of wearing the stilettos and the high heels are over. And when my doctor told me, my surgeon was like, you can't do the hard soled shoes, you got to switch up. And I'm like, I'm an executive in a technology company. What are you talking about? Like, it's always suits and heels and all that stuff. And I was like, what am I going to do? Like, how do I show up as, again, a black female sitting in front of these executives? Like I have to be like the tight suit and tie. And I was like, I kept looking and looking and looking. And I was like, I started playing around with these different outfits, right? The technology industry has also switched in style a little bit. The business casual is a little bit more casual. And so I started testing with the suit and the kicks. And the first time I did it, I was like, and my daughter gave her approval. She was like, okay, mom. And she liked my style. And I liked it. And so from that moment going forward, I actually got rid of and donated all of my hard sole shoes, all of my heels. I don't own a pair. And so I went to a gala and I wore kicks. I wore kicks. Yep. So I always have a signature, some type of signature. It used to be my phone case, and now my signature is every time you see Danielle, she's going to be dressed to whatever the occasion, but she's going to be wearing kicks. Yep. So how I feel when I walk into a room with my kicks on, it's like the term, power suit, power tie. I got power kicks, right? It's like, what is that thing that is just gonna set my outfit off? And it does. I'm not necessarily looking for the compliment, but when I know that I feel good, when I feel good in how I look, and when you feel good in your skin, it just helps you to show up the right way, If you wear those jeans that are too tight or those pants that are too tight and you feel stuffy, you don't always come across a certain way, but just feeling comfortable, it represents so much. Feeling comfortable in my own skin is how my kicks make me feel. I'm actually wearing my favorite pair right now. These are my favorite. I love bling. I love shine. I wore these today because I wanted to feel as comfortable as I could in my skin, and these represent that. I would recommend other ladies adopt the kicks game. We need more people. We need the community coming together, everybody rocking their kicks and showing the world what the evolution of us is. So how I got into making my drinks and cocktails is actually through my daughter's cheerleading organization. And so whenever folks are involved in different types of sports and education activities, parents often do fundraising. And so years and years ago when my daughter first started, several moms and even dads, we would go to the baseball stadiums and we would fundraise. We would work at the stadiums to, raise funds for our kids to participate in sports. And we oftentimes were at alcohol stands and beer stands. And so a couple of us moms were like, are we really like being effective? Like my brain is always going and looking for making sure that, I'm being effective with my time and it's worth the benefit and value. And so a couple of us were like, oh my gosh, what if we got certified as bartenders? And so we went to bartending school. We went to bartending school and got certified as bartenders because anything that I do, if you know me, I go all in and I want to do it the best. So first I wanted to learn. And so I went to bartending school. It's not that long. It's like a 6-week course. So I went to bartending school and I learned all of the official mixes and everything for making drinks. And so then from there, it just like exploded into I was working at these big venues and big events like weddings and other types of events, like high volume events. And I learned, right? I operate with empathy. I learned that a lady coming up to you doesn't always know what she wants to drink, right? She would say, oh, can you just make me something good? And so I loved putting together a special mix for a lady and I always want to see them sip my drink and see their reaction when they taste it. And I love seeing somebody just sip a Danielle drink and just see that smile on their face and be like, oh, that is so good. And so it just totally it became like a hobby and something that I did totally for fun. And I would post these funny videos on social media of me making drinks for my husband because my husband is lightweight. He is not a heavy drinker at all. So he's like one and done. And so I was always trying to make not anything, there's tons and tons of complicated drinks. I don't make complicated drinks. I use simple ingredients, but I want it to taste refreshing. I want it to taste good depending on that person and that profile and make them something that just makes them feel happy. So, so I got to go to my first CIS conference this year, and the Microsoft sponsored happy hour. I hung out with the bartenders. I had to hang out with them, see how they were doing, see what they were working with, make sure they were representing. So it was great. We had a great time. It was fun getting to see what the folks there are mixing, and getting to network with other people, either whether they're from Microsoft or from other companies, and making new connections and establishing new relationships. Every time I come out of one of those events, those networking events, my LinkedIn just, just explodes and expands more and more, and I make new connections, make new relationships, and so I love that. So my favorite drink that I make, and it was inspired by my husband, it's called a Pineapple Cosmo, and I gave my that's my own name that I gave to it. And if you know what a cosmopolitan is, it's a classic ladies drink. And I took that drink and I modified several of the ingredients. So I have some secret ingredients that are in there. And every time I make it for him, he would come home on Friday. He's like, "What are you going to make me to drink? What are you going to make me to drink?" And so just different mixing and playing around with it. That was where that was born, and I serve it in a martini glass. And there's a photo of he and I that I have on my lock screen of a martini glass that we have that's big as our heads, and he and I are double sipping on a drink together. So Pineapple Cosmo is Danielle's drink. If I think about if I've ever, sat down to have a drink with someone that's had an impact on me, or just, done something impactful or pivotal for me in my relationships, or my career, what I will say is that the kind of the act of meeting someone for a drink, that is, to me, a catalyst for building connections and almost calming a situation. One thing that I'll share is that when I interviewed for the job that I had prior to the one that I was at, I actually went and met my boss, and we went and had a drink, and we sat by a fireplace at a table together. The atmosphere was great, and we both shared a drink together. We talked, we got to know each other better. And so I think having that moment of meeting someone kind of in a casual atmosphere where you both can be comfortable, you both can be, personal with each other. It just, for me, I felt like it kind of sealed the connection I don't want to say it sealed the deal, but it was just that moment that I felt like, yes, we've connected in a way that I wanted to connect. And I always remember everyone's drink. So we go somewhere, I can always order his drink for him. So, at the end of the day, after I've been working, I just like to unwind with something just cool and refreshing, not too sweet. So one of my favorite drinks that I'm gonna make today is called a French 75. But I make a couple of modifications to it because, some of us girls like to do some low carb drinking. And so I'm constantly playing with some mixes to try to reduce the sugar. So in my French 75, I'm actually gonna put some Bombay Sapphire gin, which some people aren't gin drinkers, but if you haven't, I would just say give it a chance, because you don't really taste that earthy taste to this one. Not when I make it. So I'm gonna do some Bombay Sapphire gin, and I'm gonna take a shaker glass. And I love to do mine with a pour. So I'm gonna put in about 4 ounces of gin, because I'm gonna make one for both of us. I was counting in my brain. So I'm putting in about 4 ounces of gin, because I'm gonna make one for both of us. And then I'm gonna add in a little bit of sweetened lime juice, just a little bit, that's really what kind of breaks up the sour. And then I'm gonna add in a little bit of, this is one of my secret things, I'm using a monk fruit sweetener. So instead of sugar, I'm using monk fruit. I'm gonna do a couple of pumps of monk fruit, so that way you still get a little bit of sweetness to break it up, but it's not watching your calories. So I'm gonna shake it up. And I think that it's so important to really shake your cocktails. So I shake it a lot. because I want it to be super, super cold. That's one of the things that when I take, whenever I make a drink or I get a drink somewhere, that I want it to be just ice cold and refreshing. And see, it didn't take me that long at all. So I'm gonna take about half of this in each one of our martini glasses. And if you've had a French 75 before, most people know that it's served in a champagne glass, but Danielle loves hers in a martini glass because it changes the flavor. And then I'm gonna top it with some Prosecco. And that just gives it the bubbles. I just absolutely love this. I love it. I'm so excited. At the end of the day, you just get your nice little refreshing drink, and then I'm gonna add a little lemon wedge on both of them. And we're ready to drink. One for you, one for me.
Thank you.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers to sis.
Success. Thank you.